one of the people who were there asked me, have you ever thought of coming to Australia? And well, honestly, I had never ever thought of that. And it never struck me that that would obviously be a good opportunity. So eventually what happened was my brother, who had already migrated to Australia, he had come here in advance. And I wrote to him and I asked him, is there a good chance of me coming to Australia? And he said, yeah, why not? I'll sponsor you. And my brother Donovan, he sponsored me and brought me to Australia. The only trouble when I arrived in Australia, came all the way from India and borrowed the money for my airfare because I didn't have enough money in those days. So 500 or 5,000 rupees was about $500 in those days. That's a lot of money. But anyway, a gentleman had been kind enough to give me that money and allowed me to come to Australia. I arrived in Sydney, no one there to meet me, no one there, because in those days, they would send a telegram to say, okay, I'm arriving on such and such a date. Only trouble was the telegram came a week after you arrived. So, with the situation like that, so when I landed and nobody there to meet me, all I had was $2 in my pocket because at each airport, you had to pay a $2 tax, sort of departure tax.
Right.
So I ended up in Bangkok, Hong Kong, Singapore. And by the time I got to Australia, I only had $2 in my pocket. And I thought, geez, what am I going to do here? So anyway, I suppose, again, adversity, we go into problems. And instead of, I thought, why not make an opportunity of this? And I walked out of the airport, straight down O'Raden Street, didn't have a clue where I was going, but I saw this vacancy sign and banged on the door there and asked the security guard who was there. I said, oh, I'm here for a job because I've seen your advertisement there, vacancy. And he said, oh, but today's Saturday morning, the personal officer won't be here. I said, yeah, but your sign still has a red sign and shows that, it's available. He said, oh, hang on, I'll have a look. And we rang up. He was a bit reluctant and a bit stressed out because I took him away from his morning newspaper and things like that. But anyway, he said, geez, you're very lucky today. That personal officer just happens to be here.
Oh, nice.
And his name was Ray Smith. So with a name like Ray Smith and Ray Cook, between the two of us, we got on like a house on fire. Anyway, I started, after a 1-hour interview, he then asked me, he says, oh, by the way, do you speak English? I said, hang on, what have you been speaking for the last hour? Because all he spoke about was his service in India. He was in the Australian Army, but he was stationed in India.
Right.
And he all he was doing was talking all about India, that he was in Calcutta and Bombay and Chennai or Madras in those days and all these places. And so we got chatting, and then he asked me, he opened this big, huge screen and showed me all these, because it was a prefabricated metal. So it was a fairly big job. And it was all these, when he opened the screen, he showed me all these machines and they were all rollers and things like that. And he said, can you operate? I had a look and I said, yeah, piece of cake. I didn't have a clue because I had never worked in a factory in my life. But he said, okay, when can you start? I said, can I start now? He said, no, can you come back at 3 o'clock? Mind you, this is 7:30 in the morning. So I didn't even have a clue how I was going to come back for that job or anything. But again, see, it was just by sometimes sheer determination and not just giving up. You're disappointed no one came to meet you at the airport. What's the big deal? You're going to make the best of a bad situation. And that's what happened. I got a job, bang, $65 a fortnight, or $65 a week, which is in those days was a lot of money because of shift work. And but I worked very hard. I mean, that is how I came to Australia. That's how I started here.
That's beautiful, Uncle. Fast forward, the book.
Right.
Tell us about the book and why. Why did you think about coming up with this book?
All right. One of the reasons that I thought of writing this book, of course, we had the last lockdown. In that lockdown, I made cloth masks and the funds that were raised for that went to an orphanage in India.
Oh, very nice.
And we raised a substantial amount of money for that orphanage. And I thought, well, this is great. And of course, the end result was that children who were needy and orphans benefited from that.
Beautiful.
And to me, that was something I was giving back to people that had faith in me as a child growing up without any questions asked. They gave me the opportunity. And I thought, well, why can't I do the same for somebody else? And that's where the situation came to. Yeah. Then the second lockdown came, and I thought, now what am I going to do with this? Anyway, a lot of friends of mine had been over the years, had kept asking me, Ray, why don't you write a book? Because I'd narrate my story to them, in snippets here and there and because I had been through a lot of traumatic experiences as well in life, and not only as a child, but also growing up, and then when I first came to Australia. So we had a lot of difficulties, but at the same time, there was always light at the end of the tunnel. And I always felt that's why I go for the name Ray of Sunshine. Why not? If I can portray some sunshine in a dark place, why not? And having done that, then I thought, well, okay, maybe I should write a book and share this experience that I've been through, a wonderful experience. Even though there were many difficult aspects to it, but it was still a wonderful experience that I was able to, people who gave me an opportunity in life without ever asking for something in return. Now my opportunity was, I can do something for someone else. And that was what motivated me to write in the book. Secondly, when I started writing the book, it was very difficult because I had to go back and try and sort of work out, because I wanted to leave a legacy to my children that they would then know that, okay, their grandpa or my children and my grandchildren would say, hey, my grandpa did this and he did that, and look at us, we're complaining about this or complaining about that. But look at the life they had, but yet made the best of that, those circumstances. So that was one. And of course, the main reason for writing writing the book is to give encouragement and hope and help people, that at least I'm in a situation where, having gone through so many different aspects of life, difficulties and tragedies and things, but having gone through that, it was a blessing in disguise. Because having gone through that, I can empathize with somebody that's going through that difficulty or that problem or the loss of a dear loved one or anything like that. Once you go through, then you can empathize with people and you're on an equal par with anyone, no matter who they are. We can excel in whatever we do. But experience is something that you gain. You don't just pick it up off a tree. Or, like sometimes our children might say, oh, Dad, I need $100. Yeah, you go out there and try and shake the tree, but $50 notes don't just come off the tree. You got to work for it. And this is the thing we learned as children growing up. Yeah, true. I think that stood me in good stead. Yeah.
Beautiful, Uncle. I'll really look forward to the book. And it's being published in the next month or so. Is that right?
Well, hopefully it should be. I've already done the first editing. I've edited the first and it's gone. And then I get that back. And in a couple of weeks, I've got to return and then it goes out to be published. Yeah.
Beautiful. When you were preparing for this book, was there any moment that stuck in your head or in your mind that you would have done things differently?
To tell you honestly, no.
Beautiful.
Because I had a really good opportunity in life. No matter how difficult it was, there was always a light at the end of the tunnel. And one thing I remember back in 1985, when I was really going through a very difficult stage in my life, I remember there was a book that was published called Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. And that was written by Dr. Robert Schuller. And that book, was something, that title that stuck with me. And I thought, geez, that is correct. Tough times never last, but tough people do. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to be tough and strong and this, but it's inwardly, and you have to have that inner courage and inner determination to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get going and, lift yourself out. And I think that's what life's all about. So I've got no regrets whatsoever. No, I think having written my book is going to help a lot of people, I feel. And I've helped myself. It's given me a healing process as well for me. Yeah.
Well said, Uncle. Well said. I understand that the proceeds are going to a charity as well.
Certainly. Well, as you've seen the logo on my shirt here, Dr. Graham's Arms, I felt that the proceeds from this charity, the proceeds from the sale of the book, would in itself go towards Dr. Graham's Arms, and in turn sponsoring children who, like me, didn't have an opportunity in life, but were given an opportunity. And I think that's the difference of somebody just doling it out to you, and rather than earning that thing. It's not that I want them to earn what they get, but I want them to learn from their experience that they themselves can possibly one day help somebody else as well. And so from my generosity, hopefully they in turn can be generous to others. And that's how we share.
That's beautiful, Uncle. It's really nice to hear that. What we are seeing in around us also is the increasing number of depression and stress related illnesses. From what you have gone through, what would be your advice to the younger generation today?
I mean, it's difficult for me to give anyone advice because I'm just a lowly, humble person myself. But I would say that no matter what life throws at you, you've got to get up there and sort of get out there and do whatever you can to make sure that you get your message across. And at the same time, be determined, have that determination to excel. And no matter what you do, give it your best shot, and the results will amaze you.
Before we finish, is there anything you'd like to add on before you close off this discussion?
Well, to close off I'd really appreciate if anyone that would get this book and read about it and read it. Don't just put it on a shelf. Read it. And hopefully you will get some knowledge or get some thing back out of it. The whole idea of me writing this book is to give you my experience. And you can't buy that off a shelf. That's something you have to live. And so if I can share that experience in the hope that you yourself would be able to then learn from that experience and experience it yourself, different aspects of your life that you're going through, you will then experience it. And in turn, you will be able to share that experience with other people. Or, you're not the only one going through tough times. Each one in our own way has a different set of standards or rules or problems that we're going through. Each one of us have a unique thing in our life that is happening. And especially now with all this beautiful technology and, with the double vaccines and things like that, we are so fortunate to be living at this time. Even though it's a difficult time for a lot of people, it is still a time that we can look back on afterwards and say, well, I came through that. And I came through that with flying colors.
Thanks a lot again for giving us the time today to talk to us. Thank you, Uncle.
I just want to thank you and appreciate everything you have done to make this possible, and also for the technology that we are using. And especially at my age, 75 years old, and I'm talking on Skype to someone in India, it's not Skype, sorry, Zoom.
Yeah.
We give them a hug as well, yeah. But Zoom. Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. Anyway, but I really appreciate it and thank you very, very much. And I'd like to end by saying Nandri to you.
Nandri, Uncle. Nandri, Vanakkam. Yes.
Nandri, Vanakkam. And thank you very, very much for all the help and assistance that you have been giving to me. I really appreciate that.